So in 3.5, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be graphing here. And not only are we going to be graphing, but we're specifically going to be graphing inequalities. They want us to graph this inequality. Y is greater than or equal to 2x. So remember, anytime it's set to y equals mx plus b, it's a nice graph. The first thing we do is plot b. And then second, we'll use our slope to find the next point. So, as long as y is by itself, it's a nice setup. Here we see y is by itself. Remember, this is the same thing like saying y is greater than 2x plus 0. Or other words, the main thing is this is our b. So what we do first is we plot our b, which is 0. So we plot b. Now remember, our slope is 2, but we could put that as a fraction by putting it over 1. Which means from this point we're going to go up 1, 2, and to the right 1. And we go up because our slope is positive. So one thing about inequalities is how do we use a line? Are we going to use this solid line, or are we going to use that dashed line? Well, a solid line is used whenever your inequality has an equal sign underneath it. Your dashed line is used when there is no equal sign underneath it. So because of the fact that it's that, it's going to be a solid line. So we have our solid line that's going to go through these points. Okay, so that was the first thing we did. The second thing we're going to do is pick a test point. Okay, you can pick any test point you want. Here I'm going to pick a test point maybe like this one, which is 6, 1. So 6, 1 will be my test point. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug those values back into our original inequality. Well, this tells me 6 is x. And this tells me that y is 1. So I work this out and I see that this inequality is false, because 1 is not greater than or equal to 12, which means I'm going to shade the opposite side of my test point. And remember, we use this bucket to shade. So let's look at another problem. This is a problem similar to problem number 1 on your homework. Once again, we always want y by itself. Okay, so we have our inequality. The whole idea is to get y by itself. So I need to get rid of this x. How do I do that? Well, by subtracting. That will cancel. I'll be left with y is less than or equal to negative x plus 2. Remember, I could rewrite this to view a slope as negative 1 over 1 x plus 2. So first, let's just show this is the first thing we're doing. First thing we'll do is plot b, which is 2. And that's just on the y-axis. And now, the second thing I do is use my slope. Okay, because it's a negative, I'm going to go down 1, and I'm going to run to the right. Always run to the right. When we run to the right, well, 1. So from this point, I go down 1, run to the right 1. Got my second point. Now I can just connect the dots. And why is this a solid line? It's a solid line because anytime your inequality has an equal sign, it's a solid. And it's dashed when there is no equal sign below it. Now we pick a test point. And I'm going to pick this test point here, 0, 0. 0, 0 will be my test point. And what you do with this test point is plug it into your original inequality. I see x and y are both 0. So now the question is this true? We see it is true. And since it's true, we'll shade this side. The side of the inequality that includes that test point using that bucket. So another problem. Once again, the whole idea is to get y by itself. So I need to get rid of this -5. Well, I'm going to divide by -5. I see that will cancel. And I'll be left with -2, where 5x minus 2 is greater than y. So I see my b is -2. Plot that. My slope is -2 over 5. Because it's negative, we're going to go down 1, 2, and over, always to the right, 5. This time it's going to be dashed because of the inequality sign. So it'll be a dashed line. And we look at a test point. Once again, easy test point, 0, 0. And remember, all we're going to be doing is plugging this test point into our original inequality. My test point, I know x and y are both 0. After doing the work here, I see that this is true. So I'll shade the side with the test point. Once again, by using the bucket. And the last problem we'll be looking at is this inequality. This inequality is a nice one because it's not set up in y equals mx plus b. As a matter of fact, there's no y at all. This is just x is less than or equal to 5. So because of that equal, I know it's going to be a solid line. So here's 5. I know it's just basically telling me x is less than 5. We already learned when x equals something, it's just an up and down graph. For it to be less than 5, it's going to be everywhere over here. That's less, x is less than 5. So that's all we'll be doing with this problem here. So these are some of the problems on 3.5, graphing inequalities. Keep in mind, anytime you see an inequality sign, you must always shade by using a test point.